Hello guys, and welcome to this Volks Wizard video, which is actually episode 3 of Project Audi 80. Now let me just give you a quick recap. I bought this car in December last year from Audi UK. It's done a remarkable 5,000 miles, but it hasn't been very good for it mechanically. When I bought it, it would idle, but it wouldn't really go anywhere, which you could say is quite important for a car, I think. So I had it delivered here and set about fixing it. I found problems in the fuel tank. I found a corroded pipe which was reducing the pressure. I found contaminated fuel and a few other things, rectified those, and the car ran a lot better, but it still wasn't perfect. So in episode 2 I cleaned out the fuel tank, having drained it, and then replaced the fuel injector which had been contaminated with debris, and the car ran really well then. I'd say probably 90 to 95% perfect. So it could go for an MOT then, which it passed with flying colours, no advisories, nothing. And then with an MOT it meant I could legally take it to the body shop to get the paintwork done, which you may remember was the car's sort of Achilles heel, because there was corrosion under the boots, which I will show you now. The bodywork, as you see, hasn't been touched externally. All the work has been done in the bits you can't see, but it was important it was done. So there is a bit of marking here because I put some wax on here to preserve the paint, so the dust has stuck to it. But I'll put on screen now what it used to look like, and you can see now it's a lot better. This is just debris, but it's so different to how it was before. There was also a bit in here which you can see is perfect. So nothing externally has been touched. Internally, I've started having a poke around and realised that those gauges that were there, which were a bit incongruous in such a basic Audi 80, had been slapped in by somebody not very well. They weren't plugged in. It's really hard to wire them up properly, so I've ditched those for now, and I'm going to try and get the original centre console. I've given the interior a good clean. The other problem is the stereo wiring seems to be messed around with, which is a bit weird. So I'm going to try and sort that out, because I think we've got speakers in the dash tops and we've got them in the back doors, so we need all that working really. But other than that, that's the interior done. The fuel sender, which goes in the tank under there, is still on its way to me now. It's a long story there, but the first one I ordered from Germany on eBay. I ordered it beginning of March. By the beginning of April I decided to just complain to eBay really, because it hadn't come, just to follow the correct procedure. Given them long enough. I appreciate the virus might have delayed things, but the tracking showed it get to Coventry in the UK and then never make it to my local sorting office in Leamington Spa. So the woman at the sorting office was really helpful, but she said, you know, you just need to contact the person who's sending it. So I did that, and they were pretty critical of my compatriots, to call them. They blamed the Royal Mail for mucking it up, and well, maybe they did, but yeah, it's not my fault they didn't get insurance on it. So I got a refund from eBay, ordered another one from, would you believe, somewhere like Latvia or Lithuania now. No choice, only one on eBay left, so that's coming. Who knows when, whether it'll come or not, I don't know. But at the moment there is no fuel gauge, which has made driving it around interesting, but I keep a tank of fuel in the car. I'm trying not to put too much fuel in it, because when the sender comes I just don't want to get covered in fuel again like I did before. So it's pretty much empty now, but there should be enough to get it into the workshop and warm it up so I can change the oil, because I think it's a good time to give it a good service and hopefully maybe regain the 5% of its driving perfection that's missing. So when I did the throttle body, I just saw the air filter was a bit manky. Plugs are probably original. Oil, a couple of years old I think, so not too bad, but it won't do any harm giving it a good service. So let's get it indoors and get the oil changed right now. Okay, I won't dwell too long on doing the oil change, because the chances of other people finding it useful for an Audi 80 is pretty slim. There aren't many of these left now. But if you've got like a modern classic car, the process will be pretty similar. And if you've got a Mark 1 Golf GTI or a 2 or a 3 or even a 4 with a 2 litre 8-valve engine, bad luck by the way, you might find it pretty similar. But yeah, it's you know, most older cars are going to be like this. So basically this engine in a Golf is the other way around. It's a transverse engine. In Audis, traditional Audis anyway, it's a longitudinal engine. The oil filter is down there, and the people that look after these cars for Audi UK have written, they always write the dates when they were changed on there, so February 18, so 2 years, but probably about 200 miles if that. So nice and easy to get to. The car's got a tray, which makes life a bit harder on these older cars, and I think it'll go up to the sump here. So unless we've got a stroke of luck, that's got to come off, but it shouldn't be too difficult. We need to remove the dipstick, we need to remove the oil filler cap because this allows the drain to be a little bit more thorough. Which reminds me, we've also got to get the car up to temperature. So I ran this up to temperature at idle, made sure the fan kicked in. That's a sign that it's up to temperature, ready to drain. It's always a good test of a fan as well, because on older cars, you never know when it's packed up. Well, you might find out when it's a bit late and you're on the road. So it's always a good idea coming out of winter into spring, summer to check that your fan actually works. Okay, we're good to go then. So that's it. I'll just lift it up in the air now. Okay, she's up in the air, the oil is draining, the under tray is just hanging there. It almost seems to be designed to do that, and it's going to make it much easier to put it back on shortly. Sump plug is there, because it's a longitudinal engine, it's all a bit skewish if you're used to Golfs. And the oil filter is very easy to get to from underneath. I'll just get the camera up. You can probably see the flange there, it's all shiny. That's where the filter was. So it's quite easy to get up there with an extension and undo it, as long as your removal tool fits. This Perflex filter, it's a good make, original equipment brand, but the bottom of it with those marks on it is doesn't fit the tool I've been using for ages. I've had to use that sort of clamp, which is a bit, well, I don't know, I just prefer to use this because it fits perfectly. So this is a Bosch filter, which is the same shape as the original one, and that just clips on there, so you just stick an extension on that. Bob's your uncle. Now the oil we're going to use is Sinter, very old school semi-synthetic oil from Volkswagen UK. It's not a German brand, but this is official Volkswagen UK oil. They decided to have this Quantum brand in the UK, so you can see it's official. It goes beyond the standards needed for this engine according to the handbook. So yep, and we don't need an awful lot of it. The best place to look for specifications before you get your hands oily is in the handbook, because you can really trust this. So it says here, oil capacity 3 litre for this 4-cylinder engine, which isn't an awful lot actually. It does say approximate, so it's probably a good idea to actually check that when you start putting the oil back in, which we'll do now. Okay, 3 litres went in and it went up to about halfway up the dipstick. Now considering the new oil is cold, that's probably about right. You might be able to add about 1/4 of a litre more if you want to, but it's not desperate. But I'll check it again when it's hot. So that's the oil change done. Now let's take it back outside and we can enjoy doing the air filter and the spark plugs in some unusually pleasant sunshine. Okay, now we've done the horrible dirty job of changing the oil, we can do the somewhat more enjoyable jobs of changing the air filter and the spark plugs. It's enjoyable because you don't have to lift the car up to do it. You can do it just standing here now, and it's not a dirty job at all, or at least it shouldn't be. So let's start off with the air filter then. These are really important because engines breathe like we do, and the air has to be clean, and it all goes through the air filter. On this car, it's very easy. You've got 7 clips around the outside of the airbox and 2 fillet screws on top, and that's it. You don't see these sort of pan-shaped air boxes much these days, or these kind of round air filters. So this is a man part. It's pretty clean. It's just gone a bit grey, so it's probably not that old, to be perfectly honest. Definitely not done a lot of miles, but we'll change it anyway. So that's that. Here is the new part again. well, not again, but again as in like we used a Bosch filter for the oil, we've got a Bosch air filter. And yeah, no, it's really easy to fit, just locate it in there, can't really get that wrong. And like that box, really old school looking box, you expect it to be covered in dust, but this was perfectly clean when it came in. Okay, put the lid back on, there's a groove there that needs to go onto that. That's it, get your screws, which hopefully you haven't lost, put them back in. And then 7 clips, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's it, air filter. Under 2 minutes according to the camera, so that's cool. Okay, spark plugs next then. So for this you need the spark plug sockets. They do vary with the spark plug, so you need to make sure it fits your plugs. Very easy to check, just pull the lead off and get tangled in your mic, put it on. And that's it. These are quite big plugs because they're not set into the engine like you get on a 16 valve or a modern engine, so they're kind of unusually big. So they shouldn't be in too tight. It's only a soft aluminium cylinder head. And then just wind them out by hand. You can actually get your fingers on them, which is quite unusual. As I say, in the modern world, plugs tend to be hidden deep in the engine. So these plugs are from NGK, which are a good German company, very OEM now. You see them on a lot of cars from the factory. Back in the day with Mark IIs, it was mainly Bosch triple electrodes, something like W7 DTCs, but these are NGK's BUR6 ETs on this engine. But they are very similar to the ones on a Mark II, which is not surprising because the engine's actually very similar to Mark II GTI. 8 valve anyway. So a bit like the air filter, the plugs are probably relatively new in the great scheme of things, 28-year-old car. They're not branded Audi at all, so they are aftermarket, so they have been changed at some point. They've just got a bit of corrosion on them to show that they have been in for a while, so definitely worth changing. So here are the new ones. In fact, they are identical, so don't know how old they are or whether NGK haven't changed them in years, but yeah, good triple electrode plug these. So just wind them in carefully by hand. It's very easy to cross thread them, and you really don't want to do that because if anything needs a good fit when you're working on a car, it should be a spark plug, because when the engine compresses the fuel, it's trying to blow the plugs out basically. And that is it, what we're on, 5:56, so about 6 minutes to do air filters and plugs. Those were the days. Now, might as well go for a drive, see if it drives any better than it did before. Can we get to 100% perfect driving on this 28-year-old Audi 80? Okay, so here we are again behind the wheel of Project Audi 80 with 5,110 miles on the clock. So it's going up, probably more than it has done in quite a long time then. So once we got it running reasonably well, its only failing was that it wouldn't really like to pull high gears with low revs, basically using the torque. And that was mainly when it was warm as well, so I guess when the choke had come off a bit and there was less fuel enrichment, it was then a bit flat spotty, which always reminds me of my first Mark II Golf, which was a 1.6 carburettor, and the reason I sold that to buy a GTI was because I just couldn't get it to run well, and GTIs ran like a Swiss watch in comparison. So this is somewhere in between, really. It's an electronically controlled carburettor. I've got a lot of trim all dismantled and on the back seat, so I can't go around corners too fast. But it seems alright. It's still warming up. We're on about 70 now, so a bit more to go. But my mission is to drive this car confidently 25 miles home, and I'm not at that point yet where I trust it, particularly to sit on the M40 between the M42 and the Warwick junction, because that's one long run. Well, after Henley anyway, it's a really long run with no junctions. I can always go the back way though, which on a nice day like today would be no hardship. So we're up to about 80, just over 70 actually. Looking at the fuel gauge, it's kind of like all the way to empty because there is no sender. So hopefully that'll be the next episode, and then hopefully we can do a longer drive as well after that. I've got a can of fuel. I think I said a tank of fuel earlier. I've got a can here just in case. But we're doing all right. Like I said, I don't want to put too much fuel in because when I have to fit the sender, it's going to be a lot messier job, and I'll smell the petrol for probably the best part of a week, going by the last time. So the next job is to try and find a standard centre console and the bit at the back as well around the handbrake, which is still the centre console, I guess, with the ashtray in it, because the one with the gauges, it's not simply a case of just taking the gauges out and using it like that. It's custom to the gauge, to holding the gauges, so that's something to look at. It doesn't seem to be an awful lot of availability on eBay. I've even considered buying a whole car for spares, you know, if you could buy like a high mileage one that was interior plastics anyway, were in good condition. A few £100 for that would be money well spent, but you can't even find those, so it's just going to be a question of waiting, and that's the frustrating thing working on older cars. But anyway, back to the driving. We're in, I think, 5th now, 4th. Let's go to 5th. It's alright. I do want to get some super embedded in it because I think that will help matters, but I just haven't got anywhere local where I can get that, so we're running on sort of jungle juice now from a local village petrol station. That's pretty cool. The gauge is on 90 now. But it's really weird. When I took it to the body shop, there's a tricky junction halfway there where the car kind of flat spotted a bit at the wrong time, and that made me a bit nervous. But when I went to pick it up sort of about 3 weeks later, I drove it back same route and it was really good, and I carried on driving it just to put some miles on it, and it was pretty much perfect. And I think now with fresh plugs, fresh air filter, it's pulling those gears now. It's not got an awful lot there because it's only 90 horsepower, but it's not coughing, nor has it got a temperature. So that's a good sign. Okay guys, well I hope you've enjoyed episode 3 of Project Audi 80. If you have, give it a thumbs up. Please comment, please share. As ever, please subscribe. Click that bell notification icon so you know exactly when stuff's uploaded. And I'll see you for the next one, hopefully very soon. Maybe we can actually go for a proper drive rather than a test drive as part of my work. Anyway, who knows? Fingers crossed. See you soon. Stay safe.